Hi. This is very, very important news, and I'm sorry, all you people who voted Brexit, you did not have a clue what you were doing. You really did not think about it beyond the rhetoric of Nigel Farage, etc. I'm sorry, but I did warn you people that when this finally hits now, if we, the British people, allow it to hit, if we don't regain our sense and sanity, all you people who voted Brexit, you literally are going to have to barricade yourselves in your home. None of you will ever even dare mention that you voted for this, because what we're looking at now, it is absolutely dire, and it's so bad that a Tory minister stood up and actually suggested paying the British people, us all, a lump sum, cash sum on leaving Brexit, on leaving the EU, because it's going to be that bad, because we're talking about a no-deal leave now. And this is serious. This is everything that people like myself have been saying all along about how bad it is going to be. You do not even have a clue yet, Britain. Okay, and I feel so sorry for half of the country, because really, you know, it was a very close run vote, and after it, a lot of people said that they regretted voting leave. Okay, so, you know, it is more than half the country really who are not happy now with this Brexit situation. So what we're facing now is basically a no-deal leave. Okay, and I'm going to leave you these links that I'm sharing here now, and I ask you, please read through them carefully. I'm just going to point out a few things, but basically what it's going to mean is that food prices, they are going to skyrocket, and Britain's present, all the companies, businesses in Britain presently doing trade with the EU, that it's going to be unviable because of the tariffs that are going to be placed on through the World Trade Organization, because, you know, it requires countries to charge the same tariffs to countries they don't have a trade deal with. So, you know, it's going to be really, really bad. We're talking about 30 to 40% charges for exporting to the EU for British farmers. And imagine what it's going to cost us to import then food from the EU, because currently goods moving between the EU and UK don't need to be checked at borders and face no tariffs, and complex supply chains in industries like car making cross national boundaries. You know, this is going to lead to job losses, serious job losses. We don't know the precise effect of these massive reduction in trade and UK exports would have on the British economy. Well, we do, don't we? But it's fair to say it would not be good. HM Treasury forecast ahead of the referendum, whose most pessimistic scenario was predicted on talks collapsing, suggested that such a Brexit deal would push the UK into recession and lead to a sharp rise in unemployment. It's going to be really, really, really bad. There's going to be no freedom of movement throughout the EU, and British people might even have difficulties getting across to Ireland. Prices of consumer goods would likely increase significantly under a no deal, particularly for foods like meats and cheese. LSE research commissioned by the dairy industry says dairy products would be particularly hit and see shortages of products and a sharp rise in prices, turning everyday staples like butter, yoghurt, cheese and infant formula into occasional luxuries. This, the research claims, is because of the dependence on imported products from Europe and the complex supply chains, which would be very sensitive to delays. It's just going to be 53% of British imports come from the EU. and any disruption in trade would work both ways. But the EU 27's economies are about 13.5 trillion compared to UK's 2.6 trillion. The two are not equal in size, and so the relative importance of the UK's economy to the EU as a bloc is less than the other way round. Okay? So we actually receive more from the EU than we put in. Now, one thing that hasn't been mentioned in this article, which is quite a serious omission, is the fact that as part of the EU, Britain's NHS gets subsidised medications, pharmaceutical products are all subsidised because we're part of the EU and we're part of a huge market, and because everything's ordered in bulk, so we get all our medicines and treatments, you know, pharmaceutical treatments at a very low price because it's subsidised by us being a member of the EU. You know, we benefit from as being part of that single market that buys in bulk and so is able to buy much cheaper. But as a very small nation now, on our own, it's going to cost, well, medicines are just going to go through the roof. Will the NHS even be able to afford them? People just don't, you're just not thinking. You don't think, people. You weren't given the information. You were lied to. You had your feet, they fed, they employed Cambridge Analytica deliberately to tell you lies and to feed on your fears, to actually plant the seeds of fear and feed on them and drive you all into a frenzy and make you all feel that you've got a choice here, that the choice is to leave the EU. Why? Why should we give up our collective benefits? Because that's what this ruling consciousness does, this global corporate cabal. That's what they're doing. Divide and rule, divide and rule. And what's happened here is, I tell you, it's going to be terrible. And I'm not fear-mongering. I'm not fear-mongering because, you know, I was accused of fear-mongering when I was expressing my fears online just prior to the Brexit vote. And but no, everything that myself and other people were saying and concerned about, it's going to happen if we allow it. Now, I am pleading with the British people that please now, we've got to stop this. We have to stop the whole thing. We have to accept that as a nation we were manipulated and lied to by the key campaigners, people like Nigel Farage, people like what's his name, Boris Johnson. Blatant lies. People were told blatant lies. We were manipulated through the online social medias, directly through Cambridge Analytica, who were employed to push Brexit. Okay? The same people who were employed to push Trump. And this is just so terrible. I mean, it's not only that, it's pensions at risk here, and also our human rights, you know, our human rights. And again, this is exactly myself and many other people. We already were fully aware that the Tories had planned to scrap our human rights, as David Cameron announced. When was it? First 2013 or 2014? He announced his decision to scrap human rights, and straight away myself and other people knew that, because then they started talking about leaving Europe. David Cameron, the Tories, they talked about leaving the EU, having a referendum suddenly to leave the EU, What, immediately after they've announced their decision to scrap our human rights? I mean, it's blatant. It's blatantly obvious. Because there's no way that they could scrap our human rights if we were part of the EU. Because every EU country has to support human rights. So it was a no-go. And, you know, now even Amnesty's picked up on it. Okay? Tories are using Brexit to get rid of human rights, warns Amnesty. And they plan to scrap human rights after Brexit. Go, Google it, check it, you'll see, she said it herself. After Brexit, then we'll start removing human rights. So we're going to be in a country with no human rights, no jobs, no pensions, no healthcare really. Because how are we going to get our medications now? The NHS is already working at full stretch. Are they going to start shooting people over 60 in the head? People need to think about what is going to happen. Because once we're out of the EU, that's it. And again, there's the justice system of the EU. Thousands of British people every year who are denied justice in Britain, or the justice system has failed them, have to fight for remedy through the EU courts, and they get it as well. That's gone now, that option. So we've got our corrupt justice system that's systematically removing our children already, and that's even with human rights, on the flimsiest of reasons, you know, a future emotional risk. I was reading a report today about how many children are being removed, babies are being removed from mothers. It's doubled the amount of babies being removed at birth from their mother. I tell you, there's something really, really horrible. It's, you know, the whole thing is really very, very, very suspicious. And Britain, you know, we were dragged into the EU. It did cause a lot of disruption for us. We would have been really today in a lot better position had we stayed out of the EU and just focused on carrying on building our own economy and making our own shoes and growing our own food and doing most of the things we were doing before we entered the EU. But we were dragged in there. We were all the poorer for it in the first few years. And just at the point we were about to reap the full benefits of it, oh, suddenly we pulled out. And literally thrown on the scrap heap to such a degree that her party is talking about giving every British citizen a cash sum. I mean, food in the shops, it's already, it's gone so high, you know. Food has doubled in price, even more, tripled, quadrupled for some items. British people are receiving the lowest wages ever. Jobs are already scarce. People are having to already, you know, apply for benefits in order to supplement their meagre wages. And what can we do? What can we do? Well, there are things that we can do. For example, here there's a march happening 20th of October in London. This is the route for the march. The people's vote, okay? If you want to join it, I'll leave you the link here. You can click on all of these links within it. But if you want to join the march, you know, you can. Check, there's 7 pages here. 7 pages of coaches leaving from your town or City or somewhere close. Okay, 7 pages. You can look through and find your coaches. Okay, which coach you're going to travel on. They've all been set up, you know, from all over Britain. So this, like I say, there's 7 pages here. And you know, as strong. And if you can't, if you've got transport, if you've got any other means to get down there yourself, you know, a group of you perhaps, you can share a car, though you will be advised to park outside of London and get tubes, you know, get the tube into London. But we really do need to make our voice heard. And I do strongly advise that you also write to your MP. If you can't go on the march, not everybody can go on the march. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to go on it. But at the very least, we can write to our MPs. And actually, that would be absolutely brilliant if thousands and thousands of people within every constituency contacted their MP to complain that no, we do not want this Brexit. We want another vote now. We want a vote because we were not informed. We were lied to. This thing was thrust upon us and we were given 2 months, a couple of months to make a decision about something we obviously knew nothing about because we were not given the information. We were lied to and we were manipulated by a highly organised social engineering corporation, Cambridge Analytica. And so yes, we do need to have another vote. Okay, this is what we want to march, the people's vote. And you give your vote as well by contacting your MP. Now, it's very easy to contact your MP, and I will show you now. You just type in, write to them, okay? Write to them, and there you go. You can write to your representatives. Write to them. You put your postcode in, and so let's say we'll have that one. It isn't going to let me go, but you just put your postcode in, and a list will come up of your councillors and also your MP, and you can write to them online, and it will be sent. And it's always best to send it through these because they know then your letter has been monitored, your email has been monitored as sent. And remember that MPs have to bring up in Parliament any matter, issue that more than 3,000 or more of their constituents have written to them specifically about. So I urge you, please write to your MP. Not everybody can go on a march around London. Not everybody has the time or the transport to do it. But please do contact your MP, and I'll leave you this link for you to write to them, okay? And the other thing that you can do is you can sign this open letter, okay? You know, we've got to think about the environment as well. A recent story in the Times reported that a special cabinet meeting took place in early September to discuss planning for the possibility of a no-deal Brexit. The paper reports that Home Secretary Sajid Javid suggested suspending environmental regulations, workers' rights and auto-enrolment in workplace pensions. This clearly contradicts the Prime Minister's promise to protect and enhance workers' workplace rights after Brexit. Can you confirm whether there have been cabinet-level discussions about the possibility of suspending workplace rights, environmental protections and pensions, auto-enrolment in the event of a no-deal Brexit? Kind regards, working people. And, you know, this is the link to the article. You know, every adult should be given a cash handout to mark Britain's exit from the EU, Chris Grayling suggested at a special cabinet meeting. I tell you, that's how bad it is going to be. And what, it's like robbing somebody of £1,000. Basically, robbing them of £1,000. You've robbed them of £1,000. They don't even know it yet. But you're saying, here you are, is 20 quid. I tell you, be aware, because we're talking about our children's future here, and you need to wake up. I don't care about what you think about immigrants. There are other ways of dealing with that issue than cutting off our nose to spite our face. It's absolutely ridiculous what Britain is planning to do, and I tell you, it will be that bad, and then you will not be able to get back. The Transport Secretary's proposal for a Brexit bonus came as ministers discussed this week how to respond to the possible economic shock of crashing out of the EU without an agreement. The suggestion was met with astonishment by some colleagues, according to a witness. Honestly, this is how serious. This is how serious it is getting. And I'm sorry, it's bad, bad, bad news. So I'll leave you the link to this as well. You can sign the open letter, okay? But don't leave it at that. Don't leave it at that. Write to your MP. We must write to our MPs. I'm going to be writing to my MP. I'm going to be asking my family, friends, everybody, write to your MP. We all need to write to our MP. Please inform other people about what we are facing. Okay, do not expect the BBC to tell you. Do not expect them. This is very, very, very serious. We are talking about our children's future. Okay? You're talking about your own healthcare. We're talking about your pensions, your workers' rights that are already drastically diminished. And in fact, a lot of what is going on in Britain right now is illegal, really, according to EU laws. EU laws that Britain was just about to be forced to implement. That we had to start implementing these laws and rights if we were going to be part of the EU. And just at that point, they persuaded people to get out of the EU, and they've created the immigrant crisis and then used it to justify promoting Brexit, all on the strength of xenophobia. And nobody's thought about the realities of the situation. Like people who've got holiday homes in France and Spain. How, you're going to have to get a visa to get to France. It's so, so serious. And it's all come about with this blaze of, oh, we've won, loads of Union Jacks, yeah. Well, I tell you something, there's more to running a country and being a British citizen than waving a Union Jack and moaning about Muslims and immigrants. All you people, how do you think the food gets into your supermarkets and on your plates? That you think you have a right to a pension? You think you're going to have your human rights? Oh, so when there's no more immigration, then we don't need human rights, do we? And you think that there's going to be no immigration when her party has stated very clearly that now they're going to bring in more immigrants from the Commonwealth? can I say? Well, I'll leave the links. It's up to you people. Check it out. This is serious. Get active. These are not the days for apathy anymore. You've got to get active. You've got to pick up the pen that is mightier than the sword and write to your MP and let them know full well, sorry, we want another vote, please. Thank you.